Alright, this has been said time and time again, but this year, for sure, has to be the year of Boris Toddbringer. Hello everyone and welcome back. So we're going to be talking about the End Times today, and one of those factions basically has to be the Empire. With an End Times DLC coming, it does mean that we need to see all the key players there. Nagash would be one of them, which we've already got confirmed. Nurgle would be another one, which I expect, and we spoke about very briefly already, but Boris and his province are one of the most important factors. But before anything, a big thank you to our sponsor, Instant Gaming. Instant Gaming is a platform where you'll be able to buy games at a discounted rate. It's January, money's a little tight obviously, straight after Christmas, and yeah, not a fun time. So you might as well get yourself a game at a discounted rate and get yourself a very good deal. Resident Evil Requiem, for example, is one that I'm very much looking forward to, and I can get it here for 28% off. And there's loads of really awesome titles on discounts, which you can see in the link in the description below. Not only that, but we have our monthly giveaway going on. Win the game of your choice. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, sign up, and that's it. You don't even have to make a purchase. Making a purchase through my special link, however, does support the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. This is a company I've been working on with quite some time now, and yeah, I quite like their service. I buy games from them too because, you know, right now, money's a little tight for me. So I want to be able to still buy some titles and get some stuff up and running, get some new games in. But thank you once again to Instant Gaming for the sponsor. We're going to talk about a long-awaited character. Okay, so before we jump into the nitty-gritty, yes, Boris has been in the game for a while, and I know why people say that he should be some sort of free lord, but we know now that Neferata is going to be a free legendary lord. I doubt that we're going to get a second one, and that's perfectly fine. We've had this scenario play out before. In Total War 3 Kingdoms, we had Fates Divided, which was a DLC for 2 characters already in-game. And just because the model exists doesn't mean that everything else is done. There are no faction and lord effects, there are no mechanics. I don't even think the character of Boris Toddbringer is properly even voiced yet. So yeah, the character isn't really completed. There needs to be a lot of work that needs to still be done. So why during the End Times? You know, I get it. Boris has been promised time and time again. Creative Assembly kept going on interviews that he will have his day. Well, the End Times is likely going to be that day, for one simple reason. The End Times is some of the worst written lore you'll ever get your hands on. I'm not even kidding, 99% of it is absolute garbage, but it does have a lot of very strong lore points, like for example the fact that Middenheim as a whole, or well, the mountain right next to it, is where the last Chaos Gate is. This is where the big boom is going to happen. This is where Manfred does his Manfred things. Let's just put it that way. You can't have the End Times, and you can't have the complete annihilation by chaos without having this territory. We know that Archon the Everchosen is going to end up getting his own unique mechanic, which is great. He's going to get a rework, that's been confirmed. But if they're going to go hand with the End Times, well, they need to make sure that Middenheim is playable. They need someone to hold the line. And a DLC for this could be more heavy on other features too, depending on how much time and budget Creative Assembly have for each of the individual sections. So let's talk about this, because I feel like this could be kind of cool. Mechanic-wise, Creative Assembly could actually do something very End Times themed for Boris Toddbringer. Think about very similar to what Miao Yin has for the Defense of the Great Bastion, but a lot more structured, coming at you with first Beastmen warbands, and as things get more and more dangerous, more chaos corruption around the world, you could end up seeing some warriors, demons, and even a proper mixed roster. The way I see it isn't a, constant kind of attack from you that it can last until the end of the game, but rather you're building your way up to a huge final battle. The more battles you do, the further the bar progresses. If you lose territory, you'll get there even faster. So you need to make sure to actually keep holding those points. Early on, it'll be fine. It'll be Khazrak's hordes, because Khazrak does lead a lot of attacks to you, and it will be Ungors, Gors, the basic. But as it gets more dangerous, more warriors, more god-touched things coming, it'll get harder and harder. And I think something like that could work out quite well. The main thing is, yes, you'll still be dealing with Khazrak, so there will be the chance that you survive there. Keep in mind that he does kill Khazrak during the End Times, and then the Beastmen rip him apart. So I feel like you could have that story, which kind of completes his story, but also start dealing with the end, with the final quest battle being that final battle, right? Where you're going to get a lot of protection. You're going to have like Grimgor coming in to help you, Malekith, the remaining factions that are fighting on behalf of, well, making sure that the world survives, and the massive, maybe even survival battle style horde of Archaon the Everchosen and basically everything else. Naturally, some faction and lord effects need to be implemented for Boris Toddbringer, which would likely focus around melee troops. Middenheim is very well known for its melee focus, so I could see that type of stuff coming. But we do have to talk about other things too, because obviously we should expect some lords and heroes, where I still think it's realistic, even though I feel like maybe we won't get so much for certain factions that appear. Like, for example, Nurgle, I don't think is going to get a Lord and a Hero option. It's still entirely possible, but I feel like there's more that could be done for a Empire portion. So, a legendary hero in the form of Ulric. This is a very strong warrior priest, basically the best warrior priest of Ulric that there is. He is the high priest anyway, but it makes sense to have Ulrician themed troopers coming into effect here, because we want more white walls, for example. We'll talk about the troops in just a second. The idea here is he would be a buffer, debuffer, still very, very potent in melee combat because he does have a very powerful axe. And he'll be good support there because think about him like a hero version of Constantine, I think is probably the best way of saying it, rather than Volkmar. I could imagine even going unbreakable for a while, maybe taking a little bit off that from the Kislevites, because it just makes a lot of sense with the feral nature of Ulricians. Roster-wise, things are pretty easy to lay out, because we have an army of Midland. Thank fuck for the Storm of Chaos, which Creative Assembly have been using constantly to make DLCs, for example, the Aisling portion. So I could see a lot of stuff coming in from this specific list. Probably not everything, considering that some stuff is already kind of used there. Like the Wolfkin themselves are just, well, yeah, they're just free company. However, everything else, let's just look at the units themselves before we actually go into like lords and heroes. Hunting hounds, I think a lot of people have been wanting dogs, and I think that would be kind of cool, especially since like it's deep into the Empire lore about using hounds. If they wanted to be really, really cool about that, they could also give the hounds to the Bretonnians too, and that way they get the truffle hounds too, which would only require like a minor skin change. Basically, yeah, another reskin, but it makes a lot of sense though, because, I mean, human factions are going to use dogs, right? One thing I would expect, however, is Warriors of Ulric, maybe even renamed to have a little bit more of a generic name, but you never know. I mean, they kept the Bearmen the same, so that's probably something that'll do. But essentially, these are basically state troopers, but you can give them additional hand weapons. I wouldn't be surprised if they do the Bearman route, where you could get the Warriors of Ulric with additional hand weapons and then hand weapon and shield, and that way you've got something between the lines of state troopers to great swords. Because, I mean, there's not really that much. It sucks that we don't have any heavy armored knights on foot. We will eventually, but the Teutogen Guard themselves will be something that focuses around the great weapons also. It's just heavy hammers rather than big swords. I know some people might not be too impressed about that, but I mean, you have to take into account, like, it's literally just what it is, right? These are what the units existed for a long time now. I think what needs to be talked about more than anything is a Lord and Hero option. So a Priest of Ulric, a Warrior Priest of Ulric makes a lot of sense. I don't think a Seneschal of the White Wolf makes sense, mostly because we already have a captain. Honestly, I do wish that we had weapon swapping and kind of like devotion stuff like the Warriors of Chaos do for certain churches, but it's just not going to happen. But yeah, a Warrior Priest of Ulric on the right as a hero makes a lot of sense, because it would be just bringing in more battle prayers that I think a lot of people like. And I don't think a lot of people use Archlectors a lot, so it makes no sense to have it as a Lord option. Whereas instead, you would have seen on the list there was like the Grandmaster of the Knights of the White Wolf, right? What they can do is have a generic Grandmaster with the option of being upgraded into different skins. So you have different Grandmasters being usable in different settings or different stylings for your armies. The idea here is basically bring in the Grandmaster system, take it from the Warriors of Chaos where it's devotion, start off with a standard Grandmaster, make it a Knights of the White Wolf, make it a Reichsguard, make it whatever they decide to do. I don't imagine they'll do too many of them, but that's kind of like the big missing one right now for the Lord options, which I know some people wouldn't like it too much because it's a cavalry-focused one, but I feel like it could also buff up some stuff. Like, say, for example, Knights of the White Wolf Grandmaster would buff up Teuton Guard, Hunting Hounds, and also the Warriors of Ulric. Reiksguard 1 would also buff up your Greatsworders. They could even be for the ones that we already have. There's a few knightly orders already in-game, so Knights of the Black Rose could then boost up your gunners, right? Make it themed. I feel like that would be kind of cool. I like Grandmasters. It's a really cool system that's been reused now for the Old World, which is very, very cool. There's 5 different knightly orders. We don't need to get all of them in, but it would be kind of cool just to see that in effect, because it would just add to the final parts of the Empire. Remember, the Empire is wildly popular, and I mean wildly popular. I'm going to be going to a tournament soon as a guest, not playing this time, mostly because I'm still fixing up my models. And interestingly enough, there's a lot of Empire people. I'm fairly surprised. Teuton Guard would basically be your very heavily armored warriors on foot. So the Wolf Hammer there, which counts as a great weapon sometimes as a hand weapon. It's very weird there, especially when you look at the older kits. But then again, they haven't been updated in a while. It'd be very similar to Great Swords, but they should have a lot more defensive power because these guys are supposed to be incredibly good at holding the line, whereas the Great Swords are there to push in. I kind of like them. Like they're really, really cool models, and I think a lot of people want them. There's a lot of fans of Ulric throughout the settings, so I think that makes a lot of sense to come in. Now, sure, there's not much that can be done in terms of like unique Ulric units. You never know. Creative Assembly have created stuff out of nothing, you know, with the Oceanids basically being a one-off thing. Like literally a half a sentence. So maybe they do like something really, really special. There's talk about wolf mounts in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which is in the 8th edition setting, but I'm not entirely too sure what Creative Assembly can take from that. It looks like sometimes they can, sometimes they can't, and vice versa, because, well, you know, we've got our lovely opera singer in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay now. Knightly orders are something that people don't really get too excited about, which is a massive shame. I think it's because in Total War they all kind of do the same thing. I mean, they do the same thing on the tabletop, but people are very on theme with their armies. Knights of the White Wolf, great hammers, you know, it's just kind of cool. We've already kind of got that styling already, but I feel like a lot of people want them, and it would be cool just to see them in-game finally. I actually completely forgot about these guys, which is really funny because right next to me is a squad of painted Knights of the White Wolf, as I've been just like fixing them up because obviously the move and so on. But it would be a shame if they don't ride giant wolves, but it's not really their fault if it doesn't happen. It's more of a setting issue, GW issue, more than a CA issue. The Celestial Hurricanum is still missing, so I think a lot of people would want that. It's a buffer, debuffer, very, very cool. It uses the same basic mount as the Luminarch because it was part of the same kit, and it's about time that we got it in. I think a lot of people are really missing that. Now, you might be wondering, it's like, well, this is still not really enough, is it? And I kind of get that, but I feel like adding in what needs to be added in is really, really important. And then there is some other stuff that can actually just finalize the Empire in such a way. Some people would be saying, oh, well, what about halflings? And I think halflings would be cool, but I think something like that could be done later down the line. If Creative Assembly really wanted to be cool about it, they could finally add in a bunch of Lord options, which would be the Wizard Lords, right? We don't have them yet, which is really, really strange considering how popular they were on the tabletop. Yeah, we've got all the heroes and they came in for free. I feel like a lot of assets would be then reused and stuff, so they would likely just stick it into the DLC just to pad it in and go, look, we're doing this, we're done, right? There's no new laws of magic that the Empire can take advantage of, so going in with a bunch of Wizard Lords will just be like, done. Then the Empire is basically feature complete, barring like halflings, and even then, I feel like halflings can be done sometime down the line. I think that this could kind of work in terms of content, and yes, I know some people are going to say a certain character, which we'll talk about in just a second, but the idea here is getting all the holes that have been missing from like the classic Empire roster from not only like 6th, but also 8th edition. Wizard characters were so popular because like, how magic worked back then. It's been radically changed for the old world, so you can go with the hero characters and you're perfectly fine, but I feel like this could be nice, kind of complete it there. Now, we do have to talk about Volton, a character that I think a lot of people are expecting. I think he's just going to be like an FLC thing. Like, yeah, they've confirmed that we're going to get FLC with Neferata. I wouldn't be surprised that they decided to do more FLCs just for the regard of, yeah, this is the end times, you know, big celebration, loads and loads of content. They're going to be doing a lot of legendary lords, and it's going to be a lot of different purchase stuff. So they'll go, well, we can justify a few more free things. Volton would just be like a legendary hero, and you just level him up, get him with his armor, get him with the horse changes, everything like that. If they want to be really cool about it and just like cosmetically change him as you improve him. But I mean, it's Volton. I don't like him as a character. I'll be very, very honest with you. I like the models. I think, wow, right, really cool models. But he's a Mary Sue, and he's always going to be a Mary Sue in my mind. The only thing that I really want from something like this, and I don't expect a massive patch for the Empire. Hell, I don't expect much for the Empire. But I do want something on the line of a religion mechanic. It's something that hasn't been introduced just yet, but if we're going to be getting the Ulric stuff, and again, this is all speculation, but if we're going to be getting end times, I mean, now is the time, right? It's something that maybe Creative Assembly haven't been looking too much on. I think CA Sophia did an amazing job with their religion mechanic in Troy. Something like that could be done here again, because there are so many gods and they play so much of an important role in the day-to-day life of the Empire. It's about time that we could unlock blessings from Ulric, from Sigmar, from Tal, from Moore, from basically anyone. They could do something really, really cool here, and the gods intervening is something that happens in the end times a lot, because end times fuckery, we won't go into that too much. But it's like they're active, and I think having active gods now would be great. It's kind of tough to think about the Empire sometimes, especially because like we know character packs are a thing. Because I know some people will be saying, what about Kurt Helborg or Schwarzhelm and stuff? Maybe that could happen instead. Maybe they could just like take out some units, no heroes for, no lords for spellcasters, and just go for more, just more legendary characters. I feel like this year is going to be kind of weird for Total War in a good way, but until we get to see how it goes, and Creative Assembly do take their time to announce stuff, which is kind of disappointing sometimes, but it's kind of expected too. I'm just hoping it's time for Boris, right? Like, I'm really hoping that it's this year. I think it's about time, and they've taken a lot of time. DLC hasn't been coming out very quickly, as you can imagine, well, you've been able to live through. So going with a big mega pack like that should make things tide us over for a while, right? Like 3 lords, I can get about 150 hours. That's like 250 hours. That's really good for me if they do 5 lords or whatever, you know? I like to keep busy. I like to keep very, very busy. Like, I'm really enjoying, I've put a lot more hours into Tides of Torment after it released, and I'm really enjoying it. So the more, the better. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. It's going to be late again. Paperwork, fixing models. For those of you who have been asking about the move, thank you, by the way. I do appreciate that. A bunch of the Finecast stuff broke, so yeah, I've had to fix that. It's not great. Not great. Expected, though, because Finecast, you look at the model and it breaks. But I'm getting there, boys. I'm getting there. Hopefully I'll start streaming again soon. I do apologize. I really need the collections up and running, because there's a lot of events I'm going to this year. But yeah, see you guys.